mine, y'all. Y'all think it's me. I'm telling you, it's her.
Start your day with that. That is my message to the world.
Let's go.
All right. Welcome to the Inspiring Purpose Podcast. I am so excited about today. Are you excited, sweetheart? Oh my goodness. We have a legend as our very first guest on the Inspiring Purpose Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Darrell Coach D. Andrews, we have known him for the last 20 years. And I met him at the University of Delaware in college when I found flyers posted all over the campus that said how to find your passion and make a living at it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And when I showed up for his seminar, for his speech, I was absolutely blown away. And little did I know, when I was working on my master's degree and doing my internship, there was an organization by the name of FamQuest that was looking for interns. And when I showed up for my interview, I interviewed with Pam Andrews, and she said, "Do you want to meet our CEO?" And I said, "I would love to meet your CEO. Who is that?" She said, "Darrell Coach D. Andrews." And I said, "I know that name." And when I came around the corner, I shook his hand. I said, "You were the guy at the campus. Oh my God."
What a kiss from God.
And he has been a mentor. He's been a part of our really premarital counseling, helping you and I when we were 19 years old.
No.
We went to the house and he mentored us, discipled us, and we've been in his life now for 20 years.
Right.
It's been absolutely incredible.
And he calls us his spiritual kids, but if his wife was on here, she says, "No, I am not old enough for them to be our kids."
You know my wife.
So that's auntie and uncle.
Right. Yeah, auntie and uncle Coach D. So Coach D, we're so honored to have you. We want to jump right in because everyone wants to hear your story. And your story is so inspiring, not only to us, but I'm sure it will be the same for many others who are going to be listening. So we'd love for you to share about your story, and we'll bookend this with where you currently are today as a very successful entrepreneur and speaker nationwide, known as really a legend in the work when it comes to workforce development. But would you just take us on a journey through your story and how you got to where you are today?
Well, first of all, I want to say that you mentioned knowing me for a long time and call me a legend. A legend is basically code for you getting old. Well, let's just clarify that. You know, you're legendary when you're old. So, but anyway, I love you all. I love what you stand for. And I'm just deeply, deeply honored to be your first guest. You know, I've lived with the word purpose and passion for probably the last 30 years. I just believe it's God's gift to us. And when done right, amazing things can happen, you know. So, but I'm just in honor of your first show and you position this around testimonies. I will share, I have several stories in my life that are meaningful. But one story I have is actually in the book Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, you know, and it's one of the top stories in that book. And that story is 5 garbage bags and a dream. And that story was a defining moment in my life. As the story goes, I was a pretty good, I guess fairly good, not compared to you, but fairly good football player in high school, you know, and as a result, I got recruited by a bunch of colleges, primarily small schools, Division III schools, Division II schools. And I ended up going to a school by the name of Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. So my first foray into college was Wagner College. So I was over there at Staten Island. But, you know, being young and being a little bit, you know, away from home and mom not there, you know, in my ear all the time, I had a little bit too much fun at Wagner. So my first year at Wagner, let's just say that grade point average was nowhere up to par. I don't even want to tell you what it is, 0.9, but that's a whole nother story. My first year at college. So Wagner loved me dearly, but they said, "You got to go." So I was like, oh boy. So I had to go back home and explain to my mom I was kicked off the college campus because I'm academically so far, but they just don't see any hope for me. What am I going to do? And I said, well, let me just take a job. So I went back home and I became a dishwasher. All right. I worked in a convent with a bunch of nuns and I was a dishwasher. And loved my job. I took dishwashing seriously. My job was to have the most cleanest and shiny silverware and dishes and that make it memorable for them. So I was taking that job seriously, and I actually got promoted to assistant chef. I was hanging around the chef and learned. You know, I was always finding ways for leadership. So going into dishwasher, ended up now working with the chef. So anyway, this went on for about a year, and then a good friend of mine by the name of Lonnie Johnson reached out to me. And he said, hey, man, what are you doing? And this is an important point, because one thing you've heard me say 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,001, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. That's a statement I've been using for years.
So good.
Yeah. And he said, man, you're not supposed to be here doing this. You're supposed to be in college. You were the one everybody looked at and said, you know, this guy's going to do something with his life. We know it. He said, you need to get back in school. I said, Lonnie, I get back in school. I don't have money for school. I don't have anything. He said, well, there's a school called Cheney University. It's an HBCU in Philadelphia. He said, reach out to them and they'll work with you. He said, I have a friend that goes there. Trust me, they'll work with you. And I said, well, Lonnie, still, it's August and school starts like in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He said, well, this is what great friends always say, just figure it out. So I said, I don't know, but I cared about him. He cared about me. And he shared something that a good friend would share. You know what? You got these gifts, talents inside of you. You're wasting them right here in this time. You're wasting them doing what you're doing.
Wow.
So I did what any logical person would do, because I didn't have money for college, nor was I registered. I called my family, my friends, Lisa Mondo, and I threw myself a going away party.
Oh my goodness.
And they're like, well, where are you going? I said, to college. Oh, you back in school? Are you registered? No, but I'm going to college.
Come on. Wow.
Wait a minute, do you have money? I said, money for what? For college? No, I don't have that, but I'm going to college.
Yes.
And so, as to be expected, some of the aunts and uncles said, I think the boy has lost his mind. I only had enough money for a one-way bus ticket to Philadelphia and $42 to my name.
Wow.
So what I did is I got on the bus. And I tell people all the time, sometime in life it's just that simple. You got to get on the bus.
Come on. That'll preach right there.
You got to get on the bus. And I got on the bus and I made my way to Philadelphia. I'd never been to Philadelphia in my entire life, ever. First time. So I get to Philadelphia and I have to take the train, the L train up to 69th Street in Philadelphia. And then from there, I had to take the bus up to Cheney. But when I got off the train in Philadelphia has this thing called trolley cars. Right? I didn't know much about them. And so as I was crossing the street, here comes this trolley car. I didn't see it. So, when I left home, one thing I failed to mention is I packed everything in 5 garbage bags. That's what the story is real all apart. I kind of forgot to add that in there because I didn't have luggage. All right, so I had the five garbage bags. And so, my garbage bags went one way. I went another way. I fell down, not away from the train, thank goodness, did get hurt. When I looked up, no joke, I'm not making this up, there was a sign that said, welcome to Philadelphia, city of brotherly love.
Come on.
Laying on my back, almost hit by a trolley car. So, make my way up to Cheney, got on the bus, and I didn't know what I was going to do. All I know is, and this is a statement I want to interject into the story, where I was going had to be better than where I was. And that's a statement in life right there. Sometimes where we're going is going to be better than where we are. We just got to get there.
Yeah.
Think about that. There's a lot of messages in that simple message.
Yes.
And so I showed up on the campus and there was this long line, which made me excited because I said, well, at least I don't have to rush up to this window and talk to these folks because I didn't know what I was going to say. And so finally they made it up to, I'm standing there with my garbage bags and probably looking a little bit homeless because I fell down and I had dirt on my shirt from the trolley car. And I'm like standing there. People are like, who's this dude with these bags and dirty shirt on? I don't know. They don't know what it is. And so the lady was so nice. She was polite. She said, how you doing, young man? I said, I'm doing fine. I'm excited. I'm here to go to college, And she said, well, all 500 some people standing in the line now. Back then they didn't have the computers. You did all that stuff online. Now, but back then you had to stand in line. And so I stood in line and she said, well, let me pull up your information, regarding being registered and all that here at the school. I said, well, ma'am, you don't have to do that. And she said, why? I said, well, I'm not registered. She said, you're not registered. I said, no, ma'am, I'm not registered. She said, okay, let's try something else. Let me reach over to financial aid and see if you got some financial aid paperwork and see what your financial aid package look like. I said, well, ma'am, it's only logical that if I'm not registered, I ain't got no financial aid. She looks at me, and this was the classic line. She said, boy, have you lost your mind?
Wow.
Check out my response. It was epic, Lisa. Epic. I said, I had to come up with something fast. I said, yes, ma'am, I have, but I was hoping I could find it on this campus.
Hey, that's good.
Glory to God.
Come on, let's go. Witty with it.
I needed that one right there, boy. I'll tell you, I had to put that one out in the back pocket. And so she said, I said to her, ma'am, I came up here basically on faith. You know, I dropped out of college. I went back home. I was washing dishes, and I was told that Cheney would work with you. I need to get back in college. I want to get a degree. I want to, you know, have a family one day. I want to be able to shift my outcomes in my life, my circumstances. I just want better. Can you help me? And she looked me in the eye. She said, you know what? There's something in those eyes of yours. Let's see what we can do. So fortunately, she put me up in the dorm room for the night and gave me a meal pass. And I was starving. I didn't have money for food. I broke at that point. They put me up in the dorm room, bring me back the next day. This is no joke. I met with the president of the university.
Wow.
The president heard about it. Well, he heard about it. He heard about this young man just showing up to go to college. And he said, I want to meet this man. Who's this young man? You know? And so next day I'm meeting with Dr. Laverne McCummings.
Wow.
And I'm in there. He said, you mean to tell me you literally just showed up to go to school? I said, yes, sir. He said, and you expect us to pay for it and help and everything? I said, yeah, y'all got more than I do.
Talk about faith. Woo! Talk about faith.
Y'all got more than I do. He said, you know, the last person that I heard that did something like this, Booker T. Washington. Ooh. He showed up at Hampton's College.
Wow.
He said, there's something about people like you, man. I believe in you. We're gonna set you up. And so that week they found financial aid. They gave me I got the Pell Grant financial aid. They gave me what's called a Wade Wilson scholarship. By the end of that week, I was registered on that campus, and 4 years later became the first person in my family to graduate with a 4-year bachelor's degree.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And so you never had to pay anything out of pocket?
Never had to pay a dime.
Wow. You talk about faith. And there's a part of the story that you're leaving out, and that's your athletics.
Yeah.
Talk about your athletic career there as well.
Yeah. And as a result, you know, obviously being an old football player, I went up and introduced myself to the coach who gave me a shot as well. And you know, won't go too deep into this story, but, you know, was able to make the team and then, you know, play for 4 years. And my senior year, I was all conference, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, had a couple pro teams look at me for the Philadelphia Eagles and the 49ers, and was a leader on that campus. I was the president of the RA Council. I was involved and engaged. I had several leadership positions on that campus. And this is from a kid who showed up with nothing but 5 garbage bags.
Oh, my goodness.
And I never forget what I told Dr. Laverne McCummings. I said, sir, if you give me a chance, I'll take the name of this university worldwide.
Let's go.
Guess what I have done? I've taken the name of that university worldwide.
Wow.
Worldwide.
We got to pause right there. That's just so powerful.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
I know what you really chewing on this.
I am.
Come on, the people want to hear from you. Talk about what you're processing. What are you thinking?
I'm just amazed by the whole story right now. I mean, I know I've heard it before, you know, but to hear like the details of all of how everything just kind of fit together, and just to see God's hand on you when you stepping out in faith like that, and how he's like, you know what, I'm gonna come through.
That's right.
It's beautiful, because you could have literally thought about all the reasons why you shouldn't have been there or couldn't have been there, thinking about your past, you know, college career, and had so many excuses.
So hold on.
Why you shouldn't have been there.
Hold on. This is deep, because you went from a 0.9 GPA. I heard you correctly.
Yes.
Basically dropped out of college. Shining spoons and butter knives with nuns. And your buddy comes and puts his shoe in between your backside and says, brother, it's time. It's time for you to go do something with your life. And you go from that conversation to showing up with 5 garbage bags and a dream at this university and become president. Were you captain of the football team as well?
Yep. 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, captain of the football team after walking on, met the president of the university, had no funding, had no registration. I mean, if this story does not inspire you, no matter where you are in your life, then you might need to check your pulse right now.
Yeah.
Are you alive? Because you didn't have anything. You didn't have anybody in your family that graduated from college that you were aware of. You had
nobody that ever graduated. Most folks were high school, middle school dropouts.
So Coach D, you gotta help us with this part. Can you just do me one favor and slide over to your right, okay, out of your screenshot so we can't see you, because I want to highlight something that you have in your background. Move all the way up the shot so we can't see you, and then I want to talk about this picture right here. Okay, now as y'all can see here, this is Coach D's backdrop on this particular podcast, and I want to talk about this for a minute because he's pointing. He's pointing to his brain. He's pointing to his mind. And if you're listening to this and we don't have the video, I want to highlight he's pointing to his mind, but there's a focused intensity in his eyes. And I'm pretty sure that's what the president saw when he saw you. Coach D, there was something in your mind that clicked when that conversation happened with your buddy. Now you can come on back into the shot now, Coach D. Can you explain that for those of us who may feel stuck in our lives? We may be failing.
You feel beat up. You know, what played in your mind to have you walk in that kind of faith? Like, what were you thinking during that time?
You know what I tell people all the time, and this is so true. Sometimes when we're stuck in a tough situation, we can't clearly hear voices. Like, we can't hear wisdom. You know, we almost kind of gravitate to pessimism because that's who we are.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a tough situation like that, what you got to realize is typically in most of our lives, there's one person that has some logic, some wisdom that they're trying to say to us. And if we're so locked into the pessimism of the moment, we don't hear that person. But see, I was a dreamer. I wanted to do some things in my life. And so I was open and ready for it. If I wasn't, then Lonnie's conversation would have just been nothing to me. It just would have been like, whatever. But because I had this dream inside of me, his words resonated and I believed in it. I believed in them. And so much to the point I was willing to make the move that, you know, very few people probably would ever make in their entire lifetimes. Yeah. You know, hence why this story is making all these national publications. But the reality is in that moment, to answer your question, Lisa and Mondo, I was thinking about Darrell. I was thinking about Sophia. I was thinking about Alexander. I was thinking about Pam. I didn't even know them. You know what I mean? This is my family. For those who are wondering, these are my wife and you know, Abigail, my wife and my 4 children.
Come on.
I'm thinking, what is my life going to be like? What kind of father am I going to be? What kind of husband am I going to be? Am I going to be able to take care of my family? Or am I going to be like a lot of people I see that struggle from day to day, men not taking responsibility for their families? I don't want that. So I was carrying all that in those garbage bags.
That's so powerful. So it was the dream inside of you, that propelled you into your future.
Yep. That was it. I tell my children all the time, I was thinking about y'all at 14 years old, 13.
Come on.
Because I grew up in a world, this is not negative against my family. I love my family and I always will. But there were a lot of men that just didn't take responsibility. You know what I mean? And they didn't take responsibility for raising, for nurturing. You know, I look at manhood as providing, protecting, and nurturing. I got really none of that from men, you know, in my family. I said, I'm not going to be that kind of man. And so, but I knew that I needed to have some education because, again, I was around a lot of people that dropped out of high school and middle school. And I said, I don't want this, you know, I don't want to be here. And so when I got on that bus with nothing but $42 to my name and a one-way bus ticket, that was all going with me.
Wow.
It was all going with me. And when I look at the life I live today, the father, author of several books, writing 2 more, traveled all over the world, presented at 3,000 different locations, watching my children maximize their God-given potential, married to my wife next year, 29 years.
Come on.
That was all in that bus.
Woo! You carried all of that in those trash bags.
All in those trash bags.
And you've been unpacking it now for how many years?
Unpacking the garbage bags? I don't know.
All the dreams, all the desires in your heart.
I was 20 at that time. So I guess 40 years?
So one decision.
So it starts with a dream.
It starts with a dream. One
decision that started with a dream.
Yep.
Has been unfolding for the last 40 years of your life.
Years of my life.
And I just have to say this because we know you. Like we've broken bread together. We've been in your home. When I was a 19-year-old, pimpled young adult and didn't know which way I was going, looking for guidance, you were there. You mentored me and Lisa when we were dating. Didn't even know if we would stay together. You know, I mean, there was so many things that you guys helped us navigate. You were at our wedding, and you guys spoke when we were saying our wedding vows. You've been there for us ever since. I mean, this is not like, hey, just write it off. Yeah, put him on the list. That's another notch in my belt. That's a mentee. No, you've been invested. Like we talk 2-3 times a week. And when I think about the weight that you carry, the mantle that's on you regarding your influence as a leader, as an influencer, as a world changer, man, we're just so honored that we have you in our lives. And this story is the epitome of who you are as a man. Yeah.
So much of my life is interwoven into that story. And you know, for a lot of people it's a story, but for me, it's something that God gave me, you know, to really understand fully how good he is. You know what I mean? That, you know, even in your most challenging times, he's there for you. And he's just, you know, back then I'll admit I wasn't living a Christian life back then, but the Bible says before the foundations of the earth, I knew you. So he knew me way back then, and he knew where I was going. He knew where I had to go to be able to get positioned to even embrace him as Lord and Savior, which I gave my life to Christ during that time, you know? And so I just look at it like, you know, everyone has a story, and that story can either define you and move you down the right path, or if it's not looked at the right way, can take you down the wrong path. Yeah. You know what I mean? And based upon your mindset. So I looked at the struggles as building my character.
Woo! That right there. That'll preach right there.
Building my character, making me stronger. Every time somebody said no, I was looking, there's going to be yes somewhere, you know? And so you have that mindset, and you can carry that into life, no matter what it is. It's something I tell my children. As you know, my mentees, I just, you know, it's not a, you know, a flighty statement made up in the moment. It's really a paradigm that God establishes in his people. We walk by faith and not by sight. It's just the way it is. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And God is, I believe, pleased when we walk by faith. I'm not saying that everyone has to be like me. I'm not saying everybody got to go on a garbage bus with garbage bag and $42 in their name. That's
radical.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I got to be careful.
That's a leap of faith.
But the faith part, God's right there with you. You know, if you don't mind, I got a few things I want to show folks they need to pack in their garbage bags.
Come on. Yes, please do.
When they pack in their bag by faith. First thing they need to pack is a new location. Sometimes we need a new location. Come on. Pack that in your garbage bag. Some people been where they've been for way too long. In the same town, the same people, you know what I mean? Same situation, same circumstances. I go to my hometown, and some of the guys that were walking down the streets in Syracuse with that same little limp and pimp, they still doing it 35, 40 years later. I'm like, you still walking on that same little strip of place. You don't wore that little strip out right there. Boy, get out of this place and go do something with yourself. You know, a new location can help sometimes. You know, right now I am in sunny Florida, baby. I just moved. I'm still moving. I moved from Delaware to Florida, man. I'm down here in Winter Park. I wake up to paradise every day. Palm trees, you know, sunshine, bicycling. I'm helping. So, you know why? Because love Delaware, but it was time for what? A new location.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's time to move. Okay. Another thing they need to pack in them bags, is self-awareness. Don't worry about what people think about you. Know who you are.
Come on.
See, I mean, when you know who you are, eventually everybody else going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
They're going to see it. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to beat the drum. They're going to see it. See, I just use an example. Bill Gates don't have to tell everybody he's a billionaire. We all know it.
Yeah.
That's right.
You don't have to say, hey, do you know that I'm a billionaire?
Right.
You know, but you don't know what he and his partner had to do back in that garage.
Right.
That's right.
When everybody was like adults.
You said when you know who you are.
Yeah.
How do you get to the point of knowing who you are? I mean, what does that process look like?
Yeah. Knowing who you are is, to me, it's a birthright. God gave us something at birth, but knowing who you are is really a byproduct. As a believer, I would say, of spending time with God and asking for clarity in who you are. Like, God, give me a sense of guidance for my life. But then also, a lot of who we are is screaming at us.
Yeah.
You know, it just screams at us. Like for me, motivating people, inspiring the best out of folks, giving strategy, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My wife said, you can't go around folks start trying to pull the best out of somebody. It's just who I am. Some people love to cook. You get them in the kitchen, oh my God, they're going to talk to you while they're talking to those pans.
Come on now.
And you ain't got they don't even need ingredients. They just throwing stuff in there. Give me a little bit of that, baby.
And even listening to your story, I mean, you talk about motivator, communicator. That was even coming out of you as, you know, when you responded to that lady. It was just a little your quick, witty responses and all of that.
It's always been there. My mom, God bless her soul, she has dementia right now. But when if she could talk to you right now, she would say, "I knew he was going to do something positive with that mouth."